Good morning, everyone. We had already started with a new chapter, democracy, and we have already studied what democracy is. What is democracy? Democracy means rule by the people. We have also studied about two forms of democracy, direct and indirect. What is direct democracy? In which people are, directly involved in decision making. And indirect democracy, where people are involved in decision making through their representatives. Then we had discussed why democracy is important. Democracy is important because it provides more accountable form of government. It improves the quality of decision making, right? And also it enhances the dignity of its citizens. Then we had discussed about two tales of democracy. One of Chile, other of Poland. In Chile, what happened was there was a very good democratic government, right, led by Salvador Allende, right? And what Salvador Allende did was he treated everyone equally, right? He had introduced a lot of policies, a lot of reforms, but which benefited everyone, especially the weaker sections of the society, right? And also there were many policies for the for the poorer sections, so that they can even be so that these policies can even work in their uprising. Salvador Allende was a very good leader, right? He cared for everyone. He treated everyone equally, and he had introduced a lot of policies, a lot of reforms which benefited the weaker sections of the society. Also, Salvador Allende never allowed any of the foreign powers to come and establish themselves in Chile and use the resources of Chile or misuse the resources of Chile. This irked the USA. USA didn't like Salvador Allende and its policies, right? And so it is even said that the military people, right, they received support from USA, right? Military people are, the military of Chile is said to have received, you can say, help from USA in removing Salvador Allende from the post of president and in throwing away democracy from Chile and establishing a dictatorship in Chile. Fine. So Pinochet killed Salvador Allende, democracy was overthrown from Chile, and dictatorship was established. Now, when dictatorship was established in Chile, people were tortured, people were killed, and anyone who went against the government, anyone who raised voice, was brutally tortured and killed. Again, people revolted, people fought for democracy, and finally, democracy was restored in Chile. Now, in Poland, there was a rule of non-democratic communist party. This non-democratic communist party didn't give any right to the people of Poland, right? People of Poland were not happy with this non-democratic government, right? People wanted freedom of speech, freedom of press, right? And even they wanted to form their own trade unions. They were not happy with the injustice being done by the Communist Party. Also, this Communist Party survived because it received support from USSR, one of the major communist parties in the communist party in the world. It was a major communist group in the world, right? So the revolt began on August 14, 1980, when workers in the Lenin shipyard, they revolted against the government. And why they revolted? Because they began to strike. They began to strike in groups. Why? Because they demanded that a crane operator and a crane operator should be taken back into service, as the decision was unjust. People were not happy. Now, this strike was later on joined by Lech Walesa, who was also an electrician who worked in the same company 4 years before, yani ki in 1976. 4 years ago, he worked in the same company, and also he was terminated from his services because he demanded for higher pay. So the strike slowly and slowly began to take another turn, and finally government had to bow down, right? And government had to agree with the demands of the people. So the strike began to spread across the whole city. Now the workers started raising larger demands. They wanted the right to form independent trade unions. They also demanded the release of political prisoners and an end to censorship on press. The movement became so popular that the government had to give in. The workers, led by Walesha, signed a 21-point agreement with the government that ended their strike. The government agreed to recognize the workers' right to form independent trade unions and their right to strike. After Dang's agreement was signed, a new trade union called Solidarity was formed. It was the first time an independent trade union was formed in any of the communist states. Within a year, Solidarity swept across Poland and had about 1 crore members. Revolutions of widespread corruption and mismanagement, or revelations, sorry. Revelations means once this trade union was formed, people began to know about the corruption the government had done, about the mismanagement the government had done, and slowly and slowly, people got angry towards the government. Now, the government did wanted that people should know more about their corruption. So finally, government imposed martial law in December 1981. Thousands of Solidarity members were put in prison. Freedom to organize, protest, and express opinions was once again taken away, and all the freedom which was given by the government to the citizens was taken away. Right? And another wave, again organized by Solidarity, began in 1988. This time the Polish government was weaker, the support for Soviet Union was uncertain, and the economy was in decline. Another round of negotiations with Walesha resulted in an agreement in April 1989 for free elections. Solidarity contested all 100 seats of the Senate and won 99 of them. In October 1990, Poland had its first presidential elections in which more than one party could contest. Walesha was elected president of Poland. Fine. So what happened in Poland? They began to strike, right? They once the revolution began on August 14. It began on August 14, 1980, right? So this wave spread very fast. People began to revolt everywhere. There was revolt. There was revolt against the government, and finally the government had to agree, right? Government had agreed to form. Government had agreed to let people form trade unions, and once the first trade union of Poland, Solidarity, was formed, a lot of wrong deeds which were done by the government came in front of people. And once these wrong deeds began to open up, right, the government became insecure. The government didn't wanted Solidarity to expose its mismanagement, expose its corruption. And that is why what government did, it imposed martial law and took away all the freedoms which it had given to the people according to the 21-point agreement. Now, when all the freedoms were once again taken away, people began to revolt with a greater force. And this time, right, Soviet Union was not there. Soviet Union itself was declining, right? The Communist Party did not receive any support from anywhere, and finally, right, its downfall began. And slowly, the Communist Party was thrown away, and Lech Walesa was appointed as the president of Poland. Now, what are the two features of democracy? Now, features of democracy are major decisions by elected leaders. In a democratic government, the major decisions are taken by the leaders who are elected by the people of that country. That is what is called representative democracy. These elected leaders represent the whole country. So in this way, the need of all people are satisfied. Free and fair electoral competition. A democracy is based on a free and fair election. Where does currently in power have a fair chance of losing? One person, one vote, and one value. Rule of law and respect of right. In democracy, a country can be ruled only within limits set by constitutional law and citizens' rights. Now, this is the changing map of democracy. Red shows democratic government in 1900 and 1950 and democratic government in 1950 but not in 1900. Now, this shows the presence of democratic government in the year 1900. And yellow means the government, these are the democratic government which gained democracy by 1950. By 1900, only these red marks were democratic. And by 1950, these yellow marks have gained democracy. And even India is a part of this map. The changing map of democracy. How the world map slowly and slowly began to be democratic, right? In 1900, there were lesser countries which were democratic. But by 1950, many other countries have become a part of this map, including India. Now, democratic government in 1975 and democratic government in 2000, right? You can see most of the African countries, this is the African continent, even the African countries have gained democracy by the year 2000. How democracy has spread. This is the map which shows the democratic countries in 1975. And this is the map which shows democratic government in 2000. Right? Many countries have gained democracy, in which Russia is also there. Here Russia is not there, but here even Russia is there. Now, the changing map of democracy. Democracy has expanded throughout the 20th century. Is it correct to say that at each point in these maps, the number of democratic countries is larger than at the previous point in time? Yes, this is correct. Because if we see the map of 1900 and if we see the map of 1950, the number of democratic countries have increased. Democracy did not spread evenly in all parts of the world. It was established first in some regions and then spread to other regions. Again, this is correct. While a majority of countries are democratic today, there are still large part of the world that are not democratic. Very true. If you see the map of 2000, still there are many countries which are not non-democratic. The white portion reflects the countries which are still non-democratic, including China. Right? Now, this is your homework. You'll make this poster. Alright, you'll make this poster and you will submit your work on time. I want the cutout of this poster. Alright, class. So you will go through these slides once again. Go through each slide very thoroughly. Fine. Do your homework on time, and if any query is there, you can message me on your WhatsApp group or you can ask me in your Zoom classes. Thank you.